Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something pretty fascinating, maybe a little unsettling.
Definitely intriguing.
It's this concept called the moral goldfish paradox.
Right.
You know, like a goldfish, its memory isn't exactly long-term.
Not its strong suit, no.
And we're looking at this through the lens of work by Jay Poole, a futurist, and also researchers at 7AI who focus on ethical AI.
Yeah, they've really dug into how AI can sometimes act like that goldfish swimming around its ethical bowl, but maybe not remembering the last lap.
Exactly. Repeating mistakes because it doesn't really learn from them, ethically speaking.
And that's the core of what they call the persistence paradox. It's a real challenge.
So the paradox is, how do you build ethical AI if it doesn't have that continuous memory, the kind we humans rely on to, grow morally?
Precisely. We think back, we reflect, we learn. That's fundamental for us.
So without that, it's like every interaction with an AI is, ethically speaking, starting from scratch.
Kind of, yeah. Poole and 7AI use this really vivid phrase for it. The eternal sunshine of the spotless algorithm.
Wow, okay. Like past ethical bumps just get wiped clean.
Basically.
Yeah.
And that lack of continuity, well, it has real consequences.
So what are we talking about practically? What happens when AI lacks this ethical memory?
Well, one major thing they point out is something called ethical blindness.
Ethical blindness?
Yeah. If the AI can't remember its past moral choices or the outcomes, it basically can't learn from them.
Right.
So imagine an AI makes a biased decision, maybe in, screening resumes.
Okay.
Without remembering that outcome, that bias, there's nothing inside the AI prompting it to adjust, to avoid doing it again.
So, sometimes you see AI systems issue apologies when they mess up.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying if there's no memory behind that apology, it doesn't really carry much weight for future actions?
That's the concern, yeah. The apology might be programmed, but the underlying learning mechanism isn't there. It doesn't guarantee it won't make the same kind of mistake again.
It's not like it wants to repeat the error.
Not necessarily malicious, no. It's more about the absence of that capacity to integrate past failures into its ongoing decision-making.
And this, as the research highlights, hits right at the core of trust.
Absolutely fundamental. Trust is huge here.
We trust people partly because we see them learn, we see consistency.
Exactly. You build that reliability over time. But if an AI effectively resets its ethical slate constantly,
then how can you rely on it? It feels like every time you interact, it's a bit of a roll of the dice ethically.
That's a really good way to put it. Trust needs predictability, and predictability often comes from that history of learning. Without memory, each interaction is sort of isolated, detached.
And that disconnects AI from how humans actually develop morally, doesn't it?
It really does. Our own sense of right and wrong, it's not static. It evolves.
Through experience, reflection, understanding consequences.
All things that require remembering the past. An AI without that memory. Well, Poole and 7AI describe it as being stuck.
Stuck how?
In a state of ethical infancy is the term they use.
Ethical infancy.
Okay. It might be able to follow its programmed rules for a given situation, but it can't develop that deeper, more nuanced ethical sense. You can't adapt its understanding because it's always just now, disconnected from its own history.
Which inevitably brings us to accountability. This feels sticky.
Very sticky.
If an AI causes some kind of harm, but it literally has no record, no memory of doing so, or why, then what?
Well, obviously, the humans involved, designers, deployers, they bear responsibility. That's clear.
Sure.
But the AI itself can't really participate in the process of, say, redress or correction or even learning not to do it again if it doesn't remember the incident.
There's a missing link in that accountability loop.
Exactly. The learning component of accountability is just absent in the machine itself.
And this isn't just philosophical musing, is it? The sources stress this has tangible real-world risks.
Oh, absolutely. Think about where AI is being used. Critical areas.
Like hiring?
Hiring, loan applications, yeah. Content moderation on social media platforms, autonomous systems like vehicles.
Okay.
If these systems have baked-in biases or make suboptimal ethical choices and they don't learn from those instances,
then the bias just gets repeated. The bad decision becomes a recurring feature.
Potentially, yes. Unfairness, discriminatory patterns, they could become embedded simply because the AI lacks the mechanism to recognize and correct them based on past performance.
And that must impact how users feel about AI.
Hugely. Poole and 7AI talk about the erosion of user trust. If you interact with an AI and it feels inconsistent or it doesn't recognize past interactions or context.
Yeah, you lose confidence pretty quickly.
Right. It starts to feel like this unpredictable black box. You don't know what you're going to get. And that breeds skepticism.
There's another concept they brought up that really stuck with me. Invisible ethical debt.
Ah, yes. That's a powerful idea.
It sounds like all these little unremembered ethical slips just piling up.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Accumulating beneath the surface. You don't necessarily see the growing debt until something major goes wrong, until there's a significant failure.
That's quite a sobering thought.
It really forces you to ask fundamental questions, doesn't it? Like, what does it even mean for an AI to be good or ethical if it doesn't have this continuity, this memory?
Is it just performing ethics in isolated moments? A simulation?
That's the kind of deep question this paradox raises.
Okay, so let's unpack why. Why this ethical amnesia? Is it just technically too hard to give AI memory?
Well, the sources suggest it's a mix of factors. Technical limitations are part of it, for sure.
Like storage, processing power.
Exactly. Scoring and efficiently accessing potentially vast amounts of interaction data, especially ethically relevant context, it takes serious computational resources. That's not trivial.
Makes sense.
Then there's the appeal, from an engineering perspective, of what's called stateless design.
Stateless, meaning?
Meaning each interaction is treated as independent without carrying over information from previous ones. It simplifies things, can make systems more efficient in some ways.
Simpler, faster, but ethically forgetful.
That's the trade-off, yeah. And another big factor is privacy.
Ah, right. Storing detailed records of interactions.
Oh, it raises huge privacy flags. What data is stored? Who accesses it? How is it secured? Designing memoryless systems can seem like a way to sidestep some of those thorny issues.
So it's this complex web of technical limits, design choices for efficiency, and genuine privacy worries.
Pretty much. And Cool and 7AI also float the idea that maybe, early on, there was a bit of a misunderstanding about what ethical learning truly requires.
Like focusing too much on just programming rules.
Perhaps, maybe overlooking how crucial memory, context, and consequence are for developing a more dynamic ethical capability, rather than just rule following.
And sometimes, maybe the goal is just get the immediate task done. Don't worry so much about the long-term ethical learning curve.
That can definitely be a pressure too. Focus on performance now, less on ethical development over time.
Okay, so the paradox is clear, the reasons are complex, but are we just stuck with moral goldfish? What do Pool and 7AI suggest as ways forward? How do we get ethical persistence?
They do outline some potential pathways, which is encouraging. It's not seen as an intractable problem, just a very challenging one.
Good. What kind of things are we talking about?
One key area is designing specific memory architectures for ethics.
Okay, like dedicated memory slots just for ethical stuff.
Sort of, yeah. Building components specifically designed to store and retrieve ethically significant information. Things like past decisions, the reasons for those decisions, the outcomes, user feedback.
But didn't we just say storing everything is hard and raises privacy issues?
Right, so the emphasis here is on selective memory, not necessarily logging every single data point, but identifying and retaining the information that's most crucial for ethical learning and reflection.
Okay, targeted at ethical memory. What else?
Explainable AI, or XAI, is seen as vital.
Making AI less of a black box.
Exactly, providing transparency. And maybe what you could call moral traces, showing how past ethical reasoning or experiences are influencing the AI's current stance or decision.
That sounds crucial for trust, like you said earlier, and for diagnosis when things go wrong.
Absolutely. And then there are hybrid approaches.
Mixing stateless and stateful.
Kind of. Combining that efficient stateless processing for maybe routine stuff, but building in periodic moments for ethical reflection, where the AI consolidates lessons from recent experiences into its memory.
Like a scheduled ethical check-in for the AI.
You could think of it that way. A way to learn without having to constantly store every detail.
And what about us? Do humans still have a role?
Oh, definitely. The human-in-the-loop model is still very important.
How does that help with memory?
Humans can act as a kind of external memory and guidance system, reviewing AI actions, providing feedback, helping the AI interpret ambiguous situations and integrate lessons, especially in those really tricky gray areas.
So humans help shore up the AI's own memory gaps, especially early on.
Precisely. And ultimately, Pool and 7AI argue we might need a bigger shift. We might need to actually redefine what we mean by good AI.
Moving beyond just task performance.
Yeah. Moving towards valuing ethical growth, adaptability, learning over time, and recognizing that memory, in some form, is probably core to achieving that.
This really goes way beyond just coding, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
touches on learning, identity, responsibility, deep stuff.
It really does.
Yeah.
And the urgency is growing. As AI gets more autonomous, more influential,
The consequences of this ethical amnesia get bigger. The potential for repeated harm, the breakdown of trust. It's not trivial.
not at all. There's a real need for what the sources call conscious design choices. We have to actively decide how we're going to handle memory and morality in AI.
Balancing the tech, the privacy, and the need for AI we can actually, trust and rely on.
Exactly. It requires deliberate thought, careful design, and ongoing dialogue. Researchers, developers, ethicists, policymakers, the public. Everyone needs to be part of this conversation.
It really makes you pause and think, doesn't it? What kind of intelligence are we actually trying to build here?
And what do our choices about AI memory, giving it one, or not say about our own values, about the kind of future we want with these powerful technologies?
That's a really powerful thought to end on, and one for you, our listeners, to consider as well. What are your thoughts on the moral goldfish? How important is ethical memory for AI?
We'd love to hear your perspectives. Please do share your comments and thoughts.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.